A New Year's resolution?
I'm going to make taza wala ghar ka khana, right? And that's the whole logic for India to eat at home, cook at home. Now, cast iron cookware. In fact, every Indian household should have a tawa that is lohe ka kadai at some point. What is gold and silver? They're amazing metals. Aluminium is a very good conductor of heat. We anodize the aluminium to protect it, but because our cooking has got a lot of acid in it from the tomatoes, tamarind, or even vinegar, it will leach into the aluminium. Now, aluminium, mercury, lead, these come under that bad group. Food is going to etch. Etch means it's going to eat into the minerals. So I think cookware is something where the iron part can be highly subsidized or fortified by choosing the right cookware. And Ishita, you are the celebrity of your life. To everybody out there listening in, you are the celebrity of your life. So now you got to make this decision.
Hello and welcome to BergCast, the podcast where we have meaningful conversations around food and nutrition. Today I have with me a very special guest, Sir Fernando. Welcome to our show, sir. Sports nutritionist, celebrity nutritionist, you have a clinical practice where the who's who comes to you for nutrition advice and nutrition guidance. I'm so excited to talk about nutrition, food, and unravel so many food and nutrition secrets with you, sir.
Ishita, thank you for having me here today. We've got a lot to talk about in terms of how do we change the way India eats today.
Amazing. So I want to start with the beginning, right? How did Fernando, the nutritionist, come about to be?
So it's very interesting. My journey has been both personal and private. You see, I studied at Goa Medical College, my clinical biochemistry. And obviously, I had access to patients in the department because we used to do pathology, blood test.
Right.
And personally, I had a problem I was a skinny guy, and if I had milk or had any foods, I would have a very sensitive digestive system. And you know, when you're lean, everyone gives you this advice ki ye kha lo, wo kha lo, eat this, eat that. And so my earliest memory of foods was, I think there's a problem with the way I'm eating or the food that I'm buying, and I'm in a medical college and all my blood tests are crystal clear. Right? So the body is working well, but the food somehow when it enters my body was complaining or my gut was complaining. So that started my first journey with Fernando, can you begin to eat a little bit more scientifically? Like, you know, a doctor would prescribe a medicine. Now, you don't give any antibiotic or painkiller for any disease. There's a specific reference. And therefore, I was like, there must be something in food. And so started my journey exploring the deeper meaning of food and how it can have a therapeutic intervention for people's health.
Wow. That's really lovely, sir. Also, the fact that you said something about having this scientific background, the scientific inquiry. How has that shaped your practice at Qua?
So, you know, in my clinic, when we started, the first thing that I wanted to do was, okay, 2 idli, 2 dosa, 2 sambar. Even my mom can write that prescription. So the fact that nutrition can be therapeutic, you go down into, oh yes, protein, carbs, fats, vitamins, minerals. Again, this is a mathematical science. So on one hand, you can't change the element of rice. Protein, carbs, fats, vitamins, minerals will remain in rice. But what changes is the human. So there is this concept called as bio-individuality. Ishita, you would have seen it in your life. There are certain people in your house that if they eat rice, they're very happy. And certain people, if they might eat rice, they might get bloated. And some people detest rice. Genetically, over centuries of evolution, we have figured out that certain foods are thumbs up and certain foods are thumbs down inside our body. And this bio-individuality brought about a practice where I said, you know, hang on, if I meet you, you know, you see that when people start dating each other, they ask their likes and dislikes and all. And we nutritionists ask the same thing, like what do you like to eat, what do you not like to eat? But liking is one level, and then getting into the biochemistry of what we call as the physiology of food. Does it agree with me? Does it not agree with me? So when you bring this maths into an equation, suddenly the chefs, the people who prepare your food, they have the love and culture. So love and culture decides at the taste bud level. But at the cellular level, am I looking to make my food much more supreme? And hence in my nutritional clinic practice, I said, look, we're going to give 2 idli, 2 dosa, 2 sambar to a person, or paratha, whatever it is, but let's discover the intimate details of a person before we write that food prescription.
Absolutely, because nutrition is such a people's science, and as you said rightly, that everyone is different and very individual in their own approach to food. You explained very beautifully, and I'd love for you to explain to the audience how nutrition of food has 2 aspects. One is, of course, the scientific aspect. What is the other aspect?
So whenever people walk into my clinic and, they're like, these are celebrities at the highest level, people like Virat Kohli, Shikhar Dhawan, Robin Athappa, Shahid Kapoor, Anupam Kher, all of these guys who come in, they're thinking at the next level. And what is that level? My body is the most expensive real estate that I own. Now, when people have that sort of thought process, what they put into their body is 2 departments: psychology, taste bud level, pleasure level, and the second part is the physiology. So when I work with anybody, and Ishita, you are the celebrity of your life. To everybody out there listening in, you are the celebrity of your life. So now you got to make this decision. Am I psychologically driven to choose my food, to prepare my food, or am I physiologically driven to choose my food or prepare my food? Now, physiologically, how do you know you have a deficiency? How do you know you have a craving? And this is where people like me, who are nutritionists, we bring a certain science to the table. That when your food is being prepared, first of all, what do I need to eat? Do I need to eat from a psychology point of view or a physiology? Physiology means the metabolism inside the human body. Now, 99.99% of the human planet today derives their choices of food from psychology. I say to everyone is, can you define your body as the most expensive real estate? For example, Ishita, what's your dream car? If you had to buy a high-end vehicle, what would it be?
A Ferrari.
A Ferrari. My high-end vehicle is, let's say, a Porsche 911. This is my dream vehicle. Now, today I have a Skoda. My driver uses the same car, the car cleaner cloth, to wipe the inside, outside and tires. But do you know that Ferrari will give you a suitcase with different cloths to wipe different parts, specific type of fuel? So if people can understand that their body is this high-end vehicle, and by the way, we can change our house, we can change our mobile, we can change our laptop, we can change everything about us except this human body. And if it is your Ferrari and my Porsche or your Mercedes-Benz out there, I ask you this question. Is your body the most expensive vehicle that you've ever owned? And are you driving it like a landlord or a tenant? And that's where the physiology of eating comes in. When you know you're a Ferrari, you will say to that food or that glass of water or that cup of tea, are you worthy to enter my body? And that brings about the first part of a diet plan. People say, "Sir, mere ko diet plan de do." The diet plan starts at the level of thinking, what do I want to put into my body? So what do I want to put in my body? When do I put that into my body? And how much? So the how much comes much later.
Right.
So deciding what to put into you is the bio-individual aspect.
Amazing. Your philosophy has always been about looking at food as fuel, looking at food as the energy it provides for us to do the most spectacular things as human beings that we can do. But to bring the nuance in it, there are also certain sect of people who take this too seriously, in the sense that they start getting scared with the food and very scared about, oh, I'm consuming this, I'm doing this, and it kind of plays on their mind. How do we bring back that balance where we're also able to enjoy the food and respect the food, both together?
You know, Ishita, I have the privilege of practicing in one of the elite clinics in India, and 200 plus dietitians. We sit down around a round table and we talk about things. First of all, the segment of population that gets anxiety towards planning their diet is very small, maybe 2% or lesser. Everybody is eating with abandon today. Diwali just went past, Christmas will go past, New Year's will go past, and we look for an excuse to eat. And even if there's no excuse, let's go to Goa and enjoy a vacation in Goa. So I think the excesses of nutrition are actually my anxiety, seeing that we are the diabetic capital, cancer capital, heart attack capital. So I am on a war to get people to eat food at home. Ghar ka khana, tiffin ka dabba, because even there's an anxiety in that, okay? Because I have to cook my own food, kaisa prepare karne ka, market se sabzi leke aane ka. But I think that anxiety, when you end up preparing the food, the anxiety is about laziness to do the best for this most expensive vehicle. Like for example, if you and I decide to have lunch today, we will order from outside. Do we know whether the ingredients are pesticide free? Did the chef wash the produce correctly and put it into the frying pan before it was cooked? But if we do that at home, you know that the selection of the produce, you know that the way it is cut with love, not with hate, right? Somebody in a restaurant might have just had a fight with the boss, and right, and your onions are fully loaded with toxic energy. Those anxieties is what I'm trying to convince India that ghar ka khana is the best thing. I'm on a war with the e-commerce apps because at a click of a button we can order right now, and when you order, you're either hungry or hangry, a combination of hunger and anger. And research has shown you will select the most sugary and the highest fat foods because they stimulate your taste buds. And each one of us are a slave to our taste buds. So these high-end people that we talk about, they're able to cut that link between the pleasure from the taste bud, which is temporary, and the permanence of performance. In sports people and in celebrity actors and actresses, they're all about, my body is the most expensive real estate. I really need to take care of it. So when people start introspecting the pleasure and the functional aspect of food, you're always going to have this anxiety battle. I say to you, just ask yourself or ask that food, are you worthy to enter me? Start at that point.
Very interesting. Speaking about food, I want to get into specifics, right? Iron deficiency is a massive burden in India. It's not just the rural population anymore, it's also the urban population. I'm wondering, what are the ways in which we can get iron into our body, into our systems? Is there any ways that we can enhance the iron availability?
Absolutely. There was this very famous story of a doctor who won a UN award wherein he realized that in this Thai province, about 70% of the villagers, like in India, where more than 50% of women in India, I don't know the exact statistics, but I know it's more than 50% of the population. That means if there are 2 women, 1 woman's going to be anemic. What he started doing is he realized that all these people in this district or province had low iron levels. So this doctor realized that if he added iron to the diet, iron filings to the diet, he would be able to enhance the nutritional absorption of iron. So what he did is, he went and made this small fish of iron, okay, and he gifted it to all the women in the province and said, when you're making your curries or your soups or your noodles, put this fish inside that, and that fish, because it was made of iron, which had a high bioavailability, meaning the iron would jump into the cooking solution, and then when you consume that food, lo and behold, you get an iron supplementation. Now in today's day and world, we've gone beyond with cookware, cast iron cookware. In fact, every Indian household should have a tawa or a frying pan or a vessel that is lohe ka kadai at some point, because at least one meal prepared in that will give the woman the daily iron.
Really?
But I want to share one thing for people who watch podcasts. The simplest thing that women of India can do today is to do a blood test and to check your serum iron levels, your hemoglobin levels, and your ferritin levels. Ferritin is an iron carrying protein. If any of these are low, the reason of your headaches, the reason of you fainting, the reason of getting tired very quickly, the reason of memory loss, the reason of insomnia is low iron levels. And a sister friend of iron is your B complex. So Indian women need to fortify their diet. Fortify means enhance, jugaad, put something more. So I think cookware is something where the iron part can be highly subsidized or fortified by choosing the right cookware. And we add that to maybe helping a lot more of rural India and even urban India. And by the way, this is not only with women. The latest ICMR research has come out with the National Institute of Nutrition talking about children in 3 different age groups. And if I remember correctly, the age group between 15 to 19 had the highest iron, calcium, magnesium, vitamin B12 deficiency, and higher cholesterol.
Yes.
Why 15 to 19? Because at the age of 15 to 19, children stop listening to the parents and start eating out more. So teenagers, if you're listening to this, or mothers, if you're watching this, show this part to your teenager or get them to do a blood test and show them that they have a nutritional deficiency, because that's where the problem is. Unawareness. You know, it's like saying, it's like imagine if government of India didn't have a speed limit on the highways. I drive at 200 kilometers an hour. You drive at 50 kilometers an hour. How do we prevent an accident? By having a rule. The rule is your iron levels should not be lesser than 60, and the rule is that your hemoglobin in women shouldn't drop below 12.
Right.
If it does, see your doctor, see your medical nutritionist. Better still, watch a podcast like this, get the test done, and you know what? Start adding the cookware which will give it to you naturally.
Why do you think, I think one of the biggest burdens also are people avoid blood tests for some reason?
So I get a lot of this in the nutrition clinic, okay? मेरे को blood test नहीं कराने का.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? So I'll share this story with you. Between Bangalore and Mysore, they built a new highway, okay? And it was so beautiful, 6 lanes on each side. If I was on that highway, I would be ripping. I'm not gone on it yet. But one day in the newspaper, I looked at it and 9 crores of fine collected in day 1. Now why? Because when I'm unaware that nobody is testing, nobody is watching me, there's no police cop standing over there and watching the whole thing, right? I'll press the accelerator. रुबाब में जाने का है. मेरे पास कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं, बॉडी के अंदर कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं, रुबाब में जिंदगी जिएगा, right? So I live like that. The moment I do a blood test, it's like a cop. By आपको चालान दे रहा है. Nobody wants a चालान. They collected 9 crores of fine in 1 weekend.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the next week the fines came down to 1 crore. Why? Because BB is telling you, Abhay, slow down. There is cameras there trying to catch you. I'm not paying 6,000 rupees worth of speeding tickets over the 12 AI cameras. My point is the AI cameras, the cop, the ticketing is a blood test.
Yes.
So what you're saying, hey, I'm not worthy to be checked, or too much stress will happen if I know I have low hemoglobin. Now, there is a story over here. Blood tests were traditionally done by doctors to diagnose disease. As a nutritionist, I am telling you, don't do a blood test to diagnose a disease. Do a blood test to discover vitamin D, vitamin B complex, magnesium, iron, sodium, potassium. Do a cholesterol blood test. You will know that you're eating too much of fatty foods. You will know that your liver is producing too much of cholesterol. I think the equivalent is mobile phone, right, Ishita? If your mobile phone goes down to 7% battery, don't charge it. Let it go off, no, completely. No, I have to charge it.
Yeah.
So why do we keep looking at that battery mark? We want to know our levels. You know how many people are going to call you, right? I am telling you, your human body is like a battery. And the vitamin and minerals which are determined in a blood test are the same levels of battery charge.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I had a guy who came in the clinic, insomnia for the last 14 years. So he did all the battery of tests and I was like, I'll solve your problem. He's like, I went to every doctor possible. They've given me sleeping pills. I got addicted. Nobody can solve my problem. I was like, two things we're going to do. We're going to analyze your shit, your stool, your poop. He's like, what does my stool got to do with my sleep? So one is there are certain bacteria that eat the food and put in molecules into your body which tell the brain, go to sleep or stay partying in Goa in your head. Second is, we looked at B complex and he had his B12 levels, if I remember, was at 92. The lowest is 280,
Yes.
highest is 900. So he says, this is low na. I said, boss, you didn't even turn up for classes. You didn't even pass the class. Forget about getting attendance. You're at 90. So the moment we changed the B12 levels, he called me up and he says, I'm not a doctor. And he said, Doctor Saab, aaj to neend ekdam chakachak aa gaya. And I said, all I did was give you a B complex. So sometimes getting forewarning in the nutritional domain can help you.
Absolutely.
So people are like, okay, I don't need to take the right food, but if I do a blood test, then they're scratching their head and like, okay, Ryan's talking something over here. Maybe I should change the way I eat.
And that's such a good point, right? Because people are so wary of taking blood tests. But the moment we take a simple blood test, Indians we know genetically are deficient in vitamin D. They have lower vitamin D levels, B12 levels. The moment we just make these small changes, their energy levels are so much better. They are sleeping better. Their mood levels are so much better. So I think it's very, very important for us to take these blood tests. And coming to again elements and coming to nutrients, right? While you said that there was certain cookware that helps, so for example, cast iron cookware that would help and improve iron levels. Is there any type of cookware that may be actually detrimental?
So very interesting that you asked this, my grandmother passed away many years ago of Alzheimer's. And one part is genetic, another part is environment. Environment means your exposure to your surroundings, which is air, water, food, the electrical radiation around you. So one paper that I read many years after my grandmother passed on was that aluminium may be linked to the aggressive progression of diseases like Alzheimer and or Parkinson. Now people come to me and say that no, but there's no scientific proof and all. But if you see, India for the last few decades, aluminium is a very good conductor of heat. We anodize the aluminium to protect it, but because our cooking has got a lot of acid in it from the tomatoes, or we use tamarind, or we use even vinegar, it will leach into the aluminium. Now, when we do this blood test, you can do all the minerals, and you have the good minerals, and then you have the bad minerals. Aluminium, mercury, lead, these come under that bad group. So when we're cooking in these, I made it my lifelong mission to inform people. Like I remember one day biryani came into my office and it came in this aluminium handi, those big ones. And I was like, I don't think I want to eat this biryani because I had the knowledge, right? So the thing is here is I'm trying to get India to understand that you need to change your cookware every year.
Oh.
Like most of us want to buy a new phone after 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
Like I change my phone every year,
Yeah.
whether I like it or not. I change my laptop every second year. And obviously, you change your wardrobe and all. But when it comes to things like the mattress, your cookware, maybe the bed linen in your house, things that are very personal to you, people are like I remember my mother had this frying pan which was like, she's like, I had this when you were a teenager and now I'm like quite old. So it's like, Mom, it's like 30 years old. She's like, yeah, so what? It's still running. I'm like, what? And so to make a long story short, when she came in for a vacation to see me in Bangalore, I called up her housekeeper and said, the pots and pans are enough. I made her show it and I said, throw it out. And I gifted her a brand new set. Because the older generation thinks that when we have something really old, it's gold. But they don't realize that the old technology is the toxic technology because it is degraded. So maybe with earthenware, I would keep it. But when it comes to metals, you want to be changing your pots and pans, at least in my opinion, every year or two.
So like a New Year's resolution thing?
Absolutely. I mean, New Year's resolution, instead of changing your mobile phone, I would like change the pressure cooker, change the. Because see, your food is going to etch. Etch means it's going to eat into the minerals. Now, if it's a cast iron, I'm like, keep it for donkey's years. But do you know if the cast iron is good? Does it have different layers in it? What is the underlining layer? So there's a lot of guesswork, and the patterns of consumption today, I just say change. Get something new into your life. You know, we had Dhanteras, and everyone was talking about this festival where you buy gold or silver and stuff like that, right? What is gold and silver? They're amazing metals. And my housekeeping came up to me saying, sir, shall we get some new pots and pans? I said, Mona, Diwali ke liye nahi, New Year's ke liye. So she said, New Year's kyun bhai? I said, New Year's because naya khana bana sakte hain, naya saal, New Year's resolution. So I think in addition to taking a diet plan, getting an exercise plan, the fact that you will buy new cookware means what is your thought process? I'm going to make taza wala ghar ka khana. Right? And that's the whole logic for India to eat at home, cook at home. Now, many of you will be working the jobs, the women have the children and have it. But let me tell you one secret. You can cook on the weekend with your children and store it in the fridge. You will not lose the nutritional value as much as you think of eating outside food, which is far more nutritionally negative than ghar ka khana stored in the fridge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And coming to that, right, I think one of the biggest hindrances in cooking food is there's a lot of apprehension around it. Maybe it's our culture, maybe it's the way that, you know, the families are set up with staff and everything else, where no one really gets into the kitchen, or everyone is a little scared to cook. What would your advice be to someone who is open to cooking but just doesn't know where to start?
Two things, okay? One is if you're single, okay? I always believe that my wife married me because she realized I could cook a little bit, right? So for all the guys out there, having a snazzy kitchen and learning to cook some basic stuff. Like you need to do dal chawal roti, you need to learn how to make rajma chawal, maybe saute a fish, you know, fillet, something or the other. Guys learn to cook. Fastest way to a woman saying yes to you is learning to cook. Women, on the other hand, we men are very selfish. We're like, do you know how to cook? Right? So women, you need to know the basics. And for women, my secret to you, learn fatafat cooking. Dishes that can be made in 5 to 10 minutes. That's the most amazing thing you can do. But more importantly, once both of you get together and maybe decide to start a family, I've got an 11-year-old. He is super impressed when Papa enters the kitchen. And he's like, Mama, you don't come in the kitchen. We boys are cooking. If you have a girl, father and daughter cooking is the most amazing thing. And women, you own the kitchen, but men of India try to enter the kitchen because the next generation is going to eat out.
Right.
The next generation is going to eat out because everything is going to go to online restaurants, online e-commerce. Oh, we're shooting a podcast today, lunch to mangwane. But I should be carrying my tiffin box because my body is the most expensive real estate. Now, when will I carry a tiffin box? When my parents have trained me to eat ghar ka khana, that it is fashionable to eat ghar ka khana. From a nutritionist point of view, it's a thumbs up that you need to eat the most powerful food which is made in your home. Because look, at the end of the day, when I buy rice, I'm buying the most expensive rice. So when we get our children to do this, the next generation will have lesser disease because they think it's fashionable. You know, I had this billionaire client, he bought this house and he built an entertainment kitchen. And his bedrooms were small. He says, we don't live in our bedroom. We live in the kitchen. I'm like, sir, I don't understand. Look, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Shah Rukh Khan also does this. He allows all of his kids' friends to come home and he cooks for them. Right? Why? I'm doing the same thing in my house because when my son's friends decide to party, Where are they going to party? Uncle Ryan's house. Why? Because there's a beautiful kitchen, Uncle Ryan's preparing, and his son Icon is amazing at putting things together. So guess what? The party is in safety of your home. Yes, there will be alcohol. Kids should drink under the right norms, which is under parental guidance. So I would think that this millionaire had the best thought process. His own kitchen, cook with the family, and trust me, that guy has such a big friend circle of his kids' friends that whenever the kid says, I want to go out and party, all his friends are like, we're partying at your house. So celebration of food can be done in our own kitchens when we get our children to appreciate the nuances of preparing food.
And very often, it's such a great point, because very often we feel like just educating the children about, okay, this food is nutrient dense, this food has slightly lesser nutrients, and doing this categorization, this has protein, this has fats. Is that just enough?
Ishita, you're a clinical nutritionist, and I run a nutrition clinic with very number of talented dietitians. We are architects. When you build a house, you get the blueprint of the house. But the true civil engineer in food is the mother, is the child that says, Mama, मेरे को घर का पिज़्ज़ा चाहिए, मेरे को XYZ का पिज़्ज़ा नहीं चाहिए. So, we architects, we have this very arrogant disposition that food density, protein, carbs, fats, vitamins. The reason I became famous is because I threw away the art of telling my client that you leave the science to me to write the prescription. But I brought in the love, the culture, the recipe, the dish, and the theater of making food at home. You see, you need to understand the theater of making food at home has become a chore. We need to celebrate making food on the weekends as a family gathering, people coming together. And so the moment we start doing that, लोग नहीं पूछेगा कि इसमें कितना प्रोटीन है, इसमें कितना चीनी है, because when you're preparing it, you will get educated. Like if you went to my grandmother, she could fatafat tell you ki how much weight of rice, how much you should eat, and this was healthy or not healthy. Like she knew that brown rice was
intuition.
Good. Intuition was there, and we have centuries of Ayurveda. I remember my grandmother was born and brought up in Gujarat, and her father was the estate manager to the Maharaja of Kathiawar. So they had all of these Sufi guys and Ayurveda guys and all of that stuff. And just basic elements in cooking. Jeera, ajwain, sauf, very powerful. Haldi, right? I was recently shocked to find out that people in Uttarakhand, while they are very young, the Himalayan tertiary buckwheat, also I think known as Kuttu ka Atta, it has something called hobamine in it.
Okay.
Hobamine is the most powerful antioxidant agent that prevents the denaturing of your DNA. Simple, it is like, literally it's like this winter fairness cream that you put inside your body that gives you pyar se sundar anti-aging protection. I know a lot of people are going to go out and find out Kuttu ka Atta and buckwheat recipes, but not made in a restaurant, but made in your house. Why? Because when you put that pancake or that dosa, which you make with this Kuttu ka Atta, you'll figure out the purest ghee, organic ghee, the best heat temperature. And also when you make it, if you make it in non-veg style, like I make it with eggs, like a pancake, you're going to choose the best possible eggs, the right temperature. So when you put all of this together, I think India needs to understand that you don't need a diet plan. You need to first go back to the basics, which is, do I know how to cook? Can I boil water? Do I know how much salt I need to put into rice? These are basics. And I think in the last 20 years, we've been more driven by internet and social media and just getting lazy, whereas housework's not happening. Housework is the most powerful exercise. They're outsourcing all our housework to robotic vacuum cleaners and my pyara Mona, who's my housekeeper, who makes all our food, right? But we need to get back into the kitchen and do some work.
So would you be able to give us like a quick recipe or your favorite recipe or something that you love cooking?
So my favorite always when I can't do anything is I find a protein. And I tell everybody, do a palm size protein if you're non-vegetarian. So palm size protein, thickness of your palm, that's the first thing I would put into a stir fry. Why stir fry? Because when you take capsicum, what is capsicum in Hindi?
Shimla mirch.
Shimla mirch. So Shimla mirch, the different colors. Okay, so buy the yellow, buy the red, buy the greens. And you'll have lovely chefs. Vikas Khanna is there. He's got some amazing recipes. Like follow his recipes, but take the stir fry because these guys are very powerful. And I use either coconut oil or I use ghee, clarified ghee of the highest quality to do my stir fry. And for those who are vegetarian, tofu or paneer. Now when you put those vegetables and you put that protein together, it's a very filling meal minus the carbohydrates. Now I'm not against carbohydrate, but you see our diet in India is predominantly carbohydrate. So when Ryan Fernando wants to do a celebrity cookout, I'm focusing on my protein and my vegetables because invariably there will be rice, there will be roti. And the point I'm telling people today is, our DJs, desk jockeys. If you're watching this podcast, you are a desk jockey. Okay? So everybody in this room also is a desk jockey, right? How much movement do we have? I mean, if you look at your watch and how many steps, 2,000, 3,000 steps, aaram se milne guys. To be in today's world, you need to get 15,000 steps. So forget the steps. Let's come back to the food. In the olden days, people ate this much rice, this much dal, this much sabji. हमको क्या करने का है? We should eat this much sabzi, this much dal, and this much carbohydrate or rice because we are not physically moving that much. We're using our brains, but it's only desk movement.
So just to reiterate what you're saying, it's not no carbs, right? It's about eating food in appropriate quantities for a particular individual. So for example, if someone is active or someone has, say, even a job, a standing job, so a teacher, those kind of people, they should be eating according to their movement, activity. And it's again, we are saying it's not no carb, but it's eating as per your requirement.
Ishita, I'll tell you a secret. Okay, I've been doing this for 2 decades now, and the who's who of the world have come to me for a nutrition plan. The secret is this. You and I have never been taught how to eat out of science. We've been taught to eat out of love and culture. The portions that each one of us eat is determined by the love and culture served onto your plate. Between the ages of 9 and say 20. Mummy to pyar se deta hai na plate ke upar. So you develop a certain amount of food that you're going to eat. Nobody checks isme kitna protein, carb and fat. The only people who are doing this are people who start going to the gym between 13 and 20 in sports nutrition. Ke itna protein hai, itna carbohydrate. So India predominantly eats out of love and culture. What you need to be doing is get educated. कि हाँ भाई मैं तो चावल ले रहा है, कितना चावल लेने का है? हाँ ठीक है, 1 कटोरी का चावल मेरे को 150 कैलोरी दे रहा है. हाँ, 100 grams, so much of calorie. Start learning this. You don't need to do a diet plan.
No.
You need to get an awareness. This is my weight, right? For this quantity of weight, what is my calorie requirement in the day? Calorie का मतलब unit of energy. So assume somebody requires 2,000 calories a day. जैसे आपका गाड़ी है ना, you have to drive from Bombay to Pune. How much petrol will you put in the car? You can't put half petrol tank and then stop halfway at Lonavala. Right, कि भाई lift दे दो, भूल गया petrol डालने के लिए. Human body is like that. Know how much you're going to drive, calorie expenditure, and see how much you need to consume.
Lovely. What a great example. And this is, you won't believe it, but this is exactly the same example I give all the small children that come in the clinic as well, because it's the best way to explain it, right? Wow. I mean, we've ended up speaking about so much, right from your beginning, how it started, to speaking about blood tests, speaking about nutrients, speaking about cookware. We also ended up speaking so much about how it's so important for us to learn how to cook. I think the crux of our podcast today is that if someone wants to know more about food, wants to know more about nutrition, sometimes actions speak louder than words. So getting ourselves into the kitchen will automatically, it'll be like a bit of a, domino effect where you'll start thinking about the food and the product and the quality of food that you're putting into your body. And I think that's such a beautiful message, Ryan. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else you would like to tell our listeners?
So the message I want to give everybody out there, and this goes to all the ladies out there, okay? I know you slogged in the kitchen after coming from work, whether you're a homemaker or you work, is gift your husband an amazing cookware set, because we men are technical. We buy the best of technology stuff. So gift him a nice set this Valentine's Day and say, babes, I need you to make me breakfast in bed. And trust me, this will work.
He will do it.
Yes, he will do it.
I will try that. Thank you. Thank you so much.